Okay, compound interest tables allow us to calculate compound interest but without using the equation. So instead of using the equation, the section of the equation that looks like this, the 1 plus r to the power of n, this section you get from the table. Okay? Now because we know the rule is A equals P times 1 plus r to the n, basically we're replacing this whole section with a number from the table. So we don't need to calculate our r and our n. We're going to go straight to a table and it'll tell us what to multiply by. So an example of a table is shown in your book. This one's on page 494 of your book. In this table, I can see all the examples of what that 1 plus r to the power of n is replaced by. So for example, if I had 1% per period for 5 periods, that would be 1.051. It's really important that you are making sure your n and your percentage are per period, not per year. Okay? So let's look at an example. Calculate the total amount if $400 is invested at 2% per month for 7 months. Compounded monthly. Okay, so for this question, everything's in months, which is quite nice. It tells me it's 2% per month, it tells me it's 7 months, and I'm compounding monthly. We like these kind of questions. Looking at my table, I find, let's change that to 1% because 2 is not on the table. Okay, 1% per month for 7 months. That was my stuff up, so. Okay, looking at the table, if I find 1%, 1% is this column here. Okay, it's per month, and I want to go find 7 months, and I can see it's 1.072. So all I need to do is to find the total value, is take the principal, which is $400, and times by 1.072. I grab a calculator. Someone grab a calculator, type it in for me. What do you get?
400. I don't know.
It's easy with the calculator. 428. And how many cents? 80 cents. Okay, remember, it must be 2 decimal places for money. So it's much simpler. I don't have to work out my R and N in the formula. But I do need to be really careful that I've chosen the correct value in the table. Okay, let's look at one more example. Let's say that I'm going to invest, let's say, I've got lots of money this time. I'm going to invest $15,000. Okay, I'm investing $15,000. I'm going to invest it for a year. Okay. The interest rate that I'm going to get is 20%. 20% per annum. That's a massive interest rate. Doesn't exist in the real world, but let's pretend it does. 50% for a year, 20% per annum. Okay. So this is the trick. Compounded quarterly. So if I'm going to compound quarterly, what does that mean? How many? Yep. So I've got to change my interest rate. So my interest rate is 12% for a whole year. So for a quarter, I would only have a quarter of that interest, which would be 5%. So I know I've got to be in this column at 5%. 20 for a whole year. So for 1/4 of a year, it would be 5%. Yep, because 4 5s are 20. So it's 5% for each quarter. How many quarters do I have in a year? 4. So down the 5% column, I want to choose this 4 here. So I'm doing 5% per quarter for 4 quarters, and I just multiply 15,000 times 1.216. 19,140.
Oh, wait. 18,240.
18,240. Okay, a table can also be used to find the principal if I'm given the final value. So, for example, let's find one that works. Okay, so in my third example, I'm going to tell you that the interest rate is 10% per annum. Compounded yearly. This I'm going to ask you, how much will I invest now? This is what we're trying to find our principal, trying to find our present value. So I want to have $20,000 in 3 years' time. So I'm trying to find what has to happen for P. So I don't know what P is, but I do know that my A, the final amount, is 20,000. Okay, it's P I don't know. Looking back at my table, I know that I still have A equals P times this number from the bracket, from the table. From my table, 10% for 3 years. If I go 10%, 3 years, it was compounded yearly, so I didn't have to do anything fancy. That gives me this value here, 1.331. So I know that this is 1.331. I know that the answer has to be 20,000, and I'm looking for what present value would calculate that. So what do I need to do to solve that equation? Divide. So I'm going to have to divide by 1.331. Does everyone understand what I'm doing there? It's like I'm solving an equation. Well, I am solving an equation. So if I do 20,000 divided by 1.331, what do I get? 15026.30?
Yeah.
So that tells me I would need to invest $15,026.30 now to have that $20,000 in 3 years' time if I could get 10% interest rate. Okay, you're going to try exercise 1104 in your book. There is only 6 questions. We're going to get it done really fast. Let's go.